Good morning, YouTube. Warbles on a lot here. Sunday, 31st of July, 2016. First dog on the moon.
Independent studies. More outsidering after 9:30 next week on Sunday Extra. It's 6 minutes away from 10. Welcome to First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living. I'm Walkley Award-winning cartoonist for The Guardian Australia, First Dog on the Moon. On Tuesday night, we saw the grand finale of MasterChef. I love that show. Let's take a look at how it all unfolded. Welcome to MasterChef, where some of Australia's best home cooks get a chance to fulfil their life goal and put their dreams on a plate. You get to put your heart and personality in a ramekin and microwave it for 30 seconds. Cook for your life and put all your aspirations in a deconstructed toasted cheese sandwich. The most important things that will ever happen to you on earth. If you burn the cardamom twirl on your pressure-cooked pork belly ice cream or over-whisk the chocolate mud crab aioli for your truffle barramundi jaffle, your wonderful cooking journey will dissolve like a kombucha foam you forgot to sous vide in the blast chiller, and you will go home. Although tonight's MasterChef is extra special because it's Celebrity MasterChef. And tonight's mystery celebrities are Malcolm Turnbull's federal cabinet. Welcome, everyone. We have 22 of Australia's most recognisable politicians and Darren Chester, who no one's ever heard of. But before we get started on tonight's mystery box, we should remember last week Christopher Pyne won the nose-to-tail offal challenge and has used his immunity pin to keep him safe from tonight's elimination final. Well done, Christopher. He'll be back for next week's Croquembouche Carnivale dry ice challenge. But now, the mystery box. That's right, everyone has to cook the same thing tonight with the same ingredients. If you open your boxes, everyone will see a spit hood and some tear gas. Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong box. That's for tomorrow's detention of Indigenous Youth Royal Commission barbecue bake-off. But we already know how that ends. Yes, here's one we prepared earlier. Okay, have we finally all got the right boxes? Excellent. Lift the lids and prepare to make us a UN Secretary General. That's right, the head of the United Nations. In your box, you'll find ground glass, hydrochloric acid, asbestos fibres, a balloon, a thesaurus, a large container of micromanagement, weasel bile, a pair of copulating rodents, and Kevin Rudd.
I'm Kevin, I'm from Queensland, and I'm here to help.
Your task tonight is to make a plausible and delicious United Nations Secretary General. But it's not that easy. You're going to have to do it without any bipartisan support or people management skills. They don't have any left at Coles. Your time starts now. Okay, Barnaby Joyce, what are you cooking? You're preparing a pot of boiling water? And that's all you're going to do today? Okay, well, it does look like you're burning it, though. And Peter Dutton, you're putting live kittens in a blender. Is that for the sauce for your dish? Oh, I haven't started cooking yet. This is just a hobby of mine. You've got 15 seconds. If you're not plating up now, you'll never have your Kevins ready for the United Nations. Come on, he's a Mandarin-speaking trained diplomat with... Oh, how hard can this be? And the first dish we'd like to taste has been prepared by the Foreign Minister, Julie Bishop. How did that go for you, Julie? Did you meet the brief?
Yes.
And what have you prepared for us?
Toast. Vegemite toast. I cut the crust off, but then I burnt it.
Well, we'll taste it, shall we? Now that packs a lot of flavour. You really have put yourself on a plate. It's magnificent, but you burnt your Kevin, didn't you? Is that why you made toast?
Oh, yes. My Mandarin was pithy. It had pith in it.
Are you taking the... Oh, never mind. This has been First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living, brought to you by the First Dog on the Moon Institute. You're welcome.
should probably end it there. That's it for Sunday.
Yes. Well, of course, the big story of the week didn't get a mention anywhere in there. The big story of the week is that there is a rising tide of angriness and crankiness and temper tantrumistics sweeping across the world. And it's not only affecting humans. If you were to search YouTube for girl killed by elephant throwing stone, you will discover that last week in Morocco, family visited the zoo. At the zoo, they decided to take a family picture, have somebody take a picture of the family, or maybe it was the father and the two daughters and them. Anyway, bloke puts his 7-year-old daughter on his shoulders, stands facing the camera. Behind him was the elephant enclosure. So there was a fence between the tourists and a ditch, and then there was another fence on the other side of the ditch. So it's kind of what technically in terms of enclosure is called a ha-ha, where you go over the fence and you fall into the ditch. Ha-ha. But that is what it's called, a ha-ha. So the elephant's on the other side of the double-fenced ha-ha, and the video commences with a bunch of people on the ground huddled over somebody with blood staining the ground. And then the video pans back across the ha-ha to see a telephoto view of the elephant standing there waving its trunk in the air with a sort of ha-ha, gotcha look on its face. And then the video comes down and crosses the concrete to a rock about the size of half an ellipsoidal football, probably the mass of 3 or 4 house bricks. And the elephant had picked that thing up and thrown it across the ditch. Crossed 2 fences. I imagine the range would have to be a minimum of 25 metres, might have been 35 metres. Hit the little girl on the back of the head with a rock the size of 2 or 3 house bricks, and she died in hospital. The fucking elephants are that cranky. I reckon that based on what happened with the bloke who had his cranky panties temper tantrum attack in Nice in France, and the day that he had his attack, nobody had heard of him. He'd just come out of nowhere. But a week later, he'd been there for a year earlier, taken videos of it and planned it meticulously, and then conveniently for the people investigating it, the day he did the deed, or perhaps even on the evening of driving off to do the deed, he sent a text message to the person who sold him the pistol so that the police could backtrack that and come up with a whole scenario and link it back to the Islamic State in Levant. So I reckon what's going to turn out is the elephant has been planning this attack for a year. The elephant was radicalised by an extremist mullah posing as a stable boy and getting a job at the zoo. And whereas the extremist mullah posing as a stable boy who radicalised the elephant will have been working for ISIL, it'll be Al-Qaeda who claims credit for providing the elephant with the stone. And it will be a terrorist elephant attack. You just give that one time and I'm sure it'll occur. There's also been a rise in warlordism. It's really the only way to describe it. The Northern Territory's Chief Minister, a fellow called Giles, has previously been recorded proudly stating in Parliament that if he were the Minister for Corrective Services, he would build a great big concrete hole in the ground and he would put all the juvenile offenders into the concrete hole in the ground and keep them there. And he didn't care how many United Nations human rights conventions he ripped up and trampled in the process, because he wanted them to learn that they had done the wrong thing. 97% of the juvenile offenders in custody in the Northern Territory are black, and Giles is, fighting on the side of white supremacy. So this last week we had a Four Corners program that showed 6 teenagers, I think it was, getting tear gas because the guards had left the door of one of them unlocked. Therefore, that one was out in the corridor and he was bashing on the door to the wing sort of thing. And that was all happening, and they got video camera of everybody sitting quietly except this one bloke who's making a futile attempt to escape. So they tear gassed the whole bloody lot of them for minutes, and then tried to drown them with a hose, allegedly washing the tear gas out of their mouth while they're choking. And they have another picture of a bloke in what they call a restraint chair, wearing a hood, tied in, strapped in. And that particular kid, I think he was 14, and he first went into detention when he was 11, and he had like 50 charges that he'd been found guilty of. When this had already gone to air on ABC, the Prime Minister rang the Australian Federal Minister for Aboriginal Affairs and said, have you seen this program? Like it had been foretold that it was going to be on the air for a couple of days in advance with grabs on the television and the radio. And the Australian Minister for Aboriginal Affairs said, oh, no, Malcolm, I haven't seen that. And Malcolm said, well, you better go home and have a look at it, like podcast it. You need to look at that. And when the media said to the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs, had you seen the program before the Prime Minister rang you up and told you to look at the program? He said, oh, no, it did not pique my interest. He had 48 hours, maybe 72 hours notice that Four Corners were going to put up a program showing teenage Aborigines being tear gassed in detention, and he didn't bother watching it because he didn't think that was interesting. He's just the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs. That's what corrective services are for, to tear gas the teenagers, isn't it? So they've decided to have a Royal Commission. And the Royal Commission's not going to have any Aborigines on it, and it's not going to look into what happens in juvenile detention anywhere else in Australia. And basically, it's a Liberal-National Party attempt to be seen to be doing the right thing by investigating it and limiting the terms of the inquiry in order to shut it down and whitewash the whole thing and make it all go away. We should be really fucking happy we're not living in the Philippines, that bunch of islands that America stole from Spain in the Spanish-American War. The Philippines have elected themselves a president who campaigned on a policy of extrajudicial killings, and he was going to shoot the drug dealers in the streets. No bother with court cases or trials or defences or laws or anything like that. Just let's shoot them all, see? And everybody confidently predicted that he would come to his senses when he got into power, and he wasn't going to do any of the silly shit that he said in order to get votes. The current estimate is that in the month or so since he's been in, 500 people have been killed extrajudicially by the police in the Philippines. And I heard a program on it this morning in the Sunday Extra segment where the Filipino chief of police in one of the towns where they reckon they've killed 100 people, he was just giggling. Oh, we're not getting into trouble, the president said. So that the Philippines has become a warlord republic. And in order to support the warlord republic's claim to ocean rights in the South China Sea on a rock that the Chinamen have gone and built a compressed sand island on, the US admirals at Sinkpak in Hawaii are kind of gearing up to fight World War III. Trump is going to become a warlord, and after he loses fighting against China, America, that bit of it that's not a radioactive hole in the ground, is going to devolve into a balkanized series of warlord states. It's all pretty sad, really. Can't see much niceness happening in the future. But, the economy has destroyed the environment's ability to support the economy, so therefore the economy has to fail and the population will reduce one way or another. And warlordism is generally a good way to reduce the population because nobody can conduct any farming operations, so there's no food, so those people who don't get killed in the warlordism starve on the outside edges of it. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, as they used to say. I wonder how Nostradamus' prediction that the bear and the eagle shall unite against the dragon is looking now that Putin's in charge of Russia and Russian banks are financing Trump's election campaign and Trump thinks Putin's a really good bloke. That could be interesting, couldn't it? Hey? Yeah. Anyway, reminds me of when George H.W. Bush's father financed the Nazi Party in the 1920s and 30s, and the German Treasury paid him back. Ciao.